Let's recap Spurs Knicks, look at the first half, second half, and isn't it good the Spurs are kind of hovering around 500?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Emily Swallow, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Hope everybody's having a great work week. Almost there. We're almost out of the woods, and the weekend will be here upon us. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts, Google Play, iTunes. The list goes on and on. Seriously, pick a platform. We are there. YouTube, Ken's 5 Plus app. There's no reason for you to not subscribe to Locked On Spurs. You guys are the everydayers. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself with a purchase of the Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50 infections. Get yours today, jacemedical.com. That's J-A-S-E medical.com. So yeah, before we go ahead and bring in our guest, Raul Dominguez of the Associated Press, we're going to look at the first half of last night's Spurs-Knicks game. So what are the 3 things that I took away from that first opening frame and that second period? And honestly, there really wasn't much to take away. If you're looking for something positive, I'll try my best. But here are 3 things that I liked, and one thing for sure, a lot more things I didn't like regarding your silver and black against the Knicks out in MSG. The first one was defense. Defense. That's one of the takeaways from the first half. It was non-existent. I mean, the Spurs just simply were not showing up and stopping New York in that first half. In the first quarter, the Knicks shot 52% on your silver and black. Not a good way to start the opening frame. While the Spurs just simply couldn't connect on anything, 38% shooting from the field. But defensively, that's our focus right now, to allow the Knicks to hit 52% of their shots. The Knicks went 5 for 9 from the 3 line. Sound familiar? Didn't that sound like how Indiana just went rampant on the Spurs in that last game from the 3 line? The Knicks were doing that in the first quarter, so they were not preventing, or at least defending up the jump shots. They were not stopping the 3 line. They were not getting out that. And then, just look at the rebounding stat. Just in the first quarter alone, the Spurs were out rebounded 12-7. So yeah, not cleaning the glass, not defending the perimeter, not defending the 3 line. Spurs defense was non-existent. At half, though, the Spurs did up their shooting percentage up to 50%, while the Knicks cooled off a bit. But the Knicks hit a few more threes in that the first half, and in that second quarter, 9 threes entering the half. It was just a bad mix, So that's the first takeaway of the first half, is lack of defense. Takeaway number 2, where was the bench? Spurs had 0 bench production in the first half versus New York. Second takeaway, Wembanyama laid an egg. He did not have a good first half versus New York. He finished in 15 minutes with 2 points. It was a minus 16 in the plus-minus category. 0 for 5 from the field, 0 for 3 from the 3 line. Went to the free throw line twice. He hit them both. He had 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and yeah, just was not lighting it up at MSG. That's fun. It's so funny we were talking about this. That being the second takeaway in the first half, is that I spoke with some New York media, and it was more about what Wembanyama could do in MSG and how he could light up MSG with a phenomenal play, hoping that he would duplicate what he did versus Phoenix. Did not happen, at least in the first half. Just laid an egg. Was pretty much a non-factor for your Spurs in the first half. So yeah, you got poor defense. You got your prize pick, Victor Wembanyama, not showing up. Yeah, not a good way to start the first half versus New York. And finally, take away from that first half, turnovers. The Spurs turned the ball over 8 times in the opening periods. You can't do that. For a young team to cough up the ball like that, and to give New York those opportunities to score in transition, or why not just not valuing the ball. You had with the Spurs again with 8 total turnovers, allowing New York to score 7 points off those 8 turnovers. So yeah, that's not a good thing as well. So you have just a bad mix: poor shooting, lack of defense, New York hitting threes, turning the ball over, not cleaning up the glass in the first half. Yeah, that's going to lead to a first half score of your Spurs 51, the New York Knicks 65. The largest lead for the Knicks in the first half, 21 points. Yeah, not a good way to start that game versus New York. So yeah, we'll see how they do in that second half. Coming up next, we'll look at that second half and pretty much put a bow on the game, and then bring in our guest, Raul Dominguez of the AP. We're going to be asking, is it cool? Is it all right that the Spurs are hovering around 500? And no surprise, more Wemby talk. Coming up next on Locked On Spurs. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long. So whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit your roster. So let's see who Josh picked and picked out for us for this week's eBay Guaranteed Fits Fantasy Picks of the Week. So who did he pick? He has Dillon Brooks on his list. His shooting will not stick, but Ime Udoka is pumping a lot of minutes into him. He is getting steals and he is playing his role excellently. And Spurs fans definitely know who Dillon Brooks is after just simply dismissing Wembanyama, saying that he's just tall. So there is your fantasy pick from Josh Lloyd. But yeah, Josh Lloyd, what he's going to do over there at Fantasy Basketball, Locked On Fantasy Basketball, he's going to help you win your fantasy championship. And eBay Motors knows a championship team is about getting each player being the perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. So what is your dream ride? What's a memory of your car you loved? Whatever it is, that car is your baby. And you remember the times when you had to fix the car to keep it running, or you wanted that cool upgrade you really wanted. Well, that's where you have to go to eBay Motors right now. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motor has it. With an eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive and go to ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Hey guys, this is Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia. It's morphin' time.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with the second half recap and full game recap. And yeah, it wasn't pretty. Spurs lost. They got trounced 126 to 105. It basically was more of the same in the second half. Poor defense. Wembanyama really not being a factor at all. And turnovers, credit to the Knicks. They only had, I believe, 4 turnovers for the entire game. That's it. While the Spurs had 13. And let's go into what is the first takeaway for the second half. Again, defense again. Spurs with 19 points allowed, given to the Knicks off 13 turnovers. They couldn't get back in transition. Scoring, as far as stopping the Knicks from scoring. Knicks scored 30-plus points in the third period, 34 points. The Spurs, that is, got outscored by the Knicks, 34-21 in the third frame. Now, credit the Spurs. So this is point number 2. Now, they did show some will to come back. They outscored the Knicks in the fourth quarter, 33-27. They cut the one-time largest lead of the Knicks by 30 points down to 15, 16 points. It just wasn't enough. Careless turnovers down the stretch, fouls, that didn't go the Spurs' way, and that's all she wrote. It really was just another ugly game for this team. Shooting, that's the third takeaway. Shooting, 9 for 34 from your Spurs from the 3 line. That's good for 26%. 48% from the field for the game, while the Knicks connected on 19 three-pointers. 19 three-pointers the Knicks connected on. Perimeter defense right there, missing in action. And while you put it all together, again, poor defense, lack of shooting. Wembanyama not a factor. Wembanyama, he didn't score his first field goal until the second half, late third period. He really wasn't that good. He's had a couple bad games in a row right now, so that's something to keep an eye on. Third loss in a row for your Spurs. Spurs now fall to 3-5 on the season. The Knicks face the Wolves this Friday out in San Antonio for the first tournament game, the play-in tournament game. But yeah, it's just another ugly night for your Spurs. I mean, they were down 30. This is becoming an issue now. They got blown out by 40 or more already, twice this season, and now they had a deficit of 30 points. They clawed back in, but still to find themselves down by 30 in a game, not good. Not to mention the fact that they've blown leads. Look at the Toronto game that went to overtime. Hopefully this is just a little bump in the road in their development. Look, this shouldn't be too, surprising here. We all knew that this was going to be, a continuation of the development and getting the team going. And look, they're dealing with adjusting to Wemby adjusting to them. Devin Vassell, he came back for the game. Wasn't really playing that many minutes, I believe. He totaled 12 minutes for the game, so 4 points off the bench, mind you. So, yeah, Trey Jones, 25 minutes, 6 for 11 shooting, 0 for 2 from the 3 line, 12 points. He did have 5 assists and no turnovers. So, just not enough. Just wasn't enough. So, those are some takeaways from the second half. Same old lack of defense. Can't connect on shots. Wemby was not being Wemby, and did not help their cause, that several other players were pretty much missing in action. Hopefully the Spurs will regroup. Coming up next, we're going to bring in our guest. He is Raul Dominguez of AP Sports. We're going to talk to him. Is it good that the Spurs are kind of hovering around 500? They're 2 games below. And just some more Wembanyama talk right here on Locked On Spurs. We spend a lot of time together, you and I. We get fired up together on wins and losses, who starts and who sits. I'm thankful for that connection we have. And today I want to chat to be a little bit more personal. I just learned that you can get a 1-year supply of ED medications. You realize what that means? Bring on extended travel, bring on the next natural disaster or supply chain issue. You are covered, my friend. You don't have to worry about whether or not you can refill your generics for Cialis, Viagra, Revatio prescription. And this is possible because of our friends at Jace Medical. Go online right now at jacemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. Remember to use code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount as well. A verified customer had this to say about Jace. I'm thankful for this service. Supply chain issues caused me to cut pills in half to have it. I ordered most of my daily meds with a year supply. I also ordered antibiotic kit. I feel secure now. Prices are lower than local pharmacies, and I highly recommend this for everyone. If you or someone you love would get some peace of mind by having a year supply of any daily med, go to jacemedical.com to see if it's offered for you. Remember to use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase. So don't be caught unprepared. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. Jace handles everything from online evaluation to licensed pharmacy, medication delivery, ongoing consultation, and care. So go to jacemedical.com right now. Use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase. I want to talk to you about Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee. You got to go to Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee right now. So much to do there. They have mini donuts. They have a wide variety of drinks. They have dairy alternatives. They have so many specialty drinks like the Alien in honor of Victor Wembanyama. I heard it's really delicious. Full can of Red Bull though, heads up. And they have the Red Bull Infused Lightning Series. Basically, those are just supercharged energy to get your day going and keep you power through your busy day. They have the Muslinger, which is the signature coffee. They have the Sub-Zero. That's in honor of UTSA's Frank Harris. They got it all. What more do you need to do, San Antonio? Go to Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee right now. 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. Open every day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's in the 281-1604 area. Again, if you're in San Antonio, as mentioned, they have a friendly staff. They're very active on social media, on X, Threads, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. The list goes on and on. If you want to follow them at Muslinger, SATX, all one word. Look, over 300 5-star reviews cannot be wrong. Go to Muslingers right now, San Antonio. Proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs. They proudly serve the San Antonio community. Go to Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee right now. 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. Open every day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Go there right now. Life's too short for bland coffee.
Hey, this is Chris Sabat, and you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And as promised, we now have Raul Dominguez of AP Sports making his Locked On Spurs debut. Raul, welcome to Locked On Spurs.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, what talk about a first debut with a loss to the Knicks like that 30
Yeah,
point
it hasn't
deficit.
been a fun week for the Spurs fans.
It has not been a fun week. The Spurs are 3-5 right now, thanks to that loss in New York. Um, you know, try not to put on recent bias goggles on, but technically the Spurs are hovering around 500 at 3-5 after the loss to New York. Uh, isn't that what everybody kind of wanted? What was that whole chatter ahead of the season and with Wemby and winning the lottery? Like, we can stay near 500. That's good progress. But Spurs are acting like the sky is falling. Is it a good thing that this team is hovering around 500 to start the season?
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the other teams that are around 500. I mean, New York just got to 500 with the win, so it's a little tough going early on for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
I think obviously with Wemby, people had such high expectations for the Spurs. They expected them, I guess, to come out and almost go undefeated. But this is the youngest team in the league, so 500 is actually a pretty good start for this group. So I know it doesn't seem that way, but it is.
Yeah, getting clubbed in the head by 40 or more twice already this season, and then being down by 30, and then losing a 20-point lead to Toronto at home. That leaves a sour taste a lot in the fan base, and I'm pretty sure you as well, and me too. Seeing this young team take its lumps, and I guess we're still having some sort of shell shock from last year's tank season, where they were just getting curb stomped almost daily. Hopefully, that trend won't pick up again, and they'll get on their groove. My fear, though, Raul, is that it's still early in the season. Yay, learn your lessons now, but those power teams are going to settle in soon. Those teams on the rise, your Kings, your Pelicans, John Morant will be back. Yep. They'll start increasing while the Spurs are sputtering. Well, like right now is the time they should be pouncing on this opportunity, Raul. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with Pop, the way with Pop does it with his teams is he always tries to get them to start playing well come postseason time. I'm sure he's got something similar in mind for this group. But it's just, again, this is a young team. I think right now it's more learning. Pop is still kind of learning what Wemby likes. He's still learning how Sohan can handle that point position. So they in a way they should be doing better, because if you think about last season they started off 5-2.
Yeah.
With a group that wasn't as talented. But at the same time, teams weren't expecting them to be that good last year. This year, everyone's coming out. I mean, Mitchell Robinson from the Knicks, before the game, he talked about, how he's going to handle Wemby. You look at Hartenstein, you can tell he took it personal as well. Like teams want to beat the Spurs, because they see all the hype that Wemby has. So they're getting every team's best shot, whereas last year maybe some teams were kind of lulled into sleep. This year, everybody wants to beat the Spurs. They want to be able to do what the Knicks fans were doing tonight, was just shouting overrated to Wemby, which he obviously is not. But, teams want to beat the Spurs. And so I think early on, I think all these losses are good for them. I thought they were going to kind of turn a corner after they beat Phoenix. They were able to come back, beat Phoenix the first game, and then hold on to beat them the second game. But if anything, they've regressed since then, which is kind of surprising. But at the same time, these are, this is the youngest team. Again, this is the youngest team. So, as high school football coaches say, you never know what's in the mind of a 17-year-old, someone at 19, 20, 21. You have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, he is Raul Dominguez of AP Sports. Make sure to follow him on X. You see that name at the bottom of your screen. ABR, I guess it's AB Junior's dad, is it?
Yeah, it's the initials from my kids, Alina, Bea, and RJ. So
there you go. Make sure to follow him on X. Do it right now. Great follow. He'll tell you all things about the Spurs and so much more. By the way, Raul, before we transition to our next topic, sorry for vomiting nerd all over you. So sorry about that. Sorry about that. A lot of people, you were being cool about it. A lot of people that come on before we hit record, they're like, "Whoa."
Actually, I like it. I have a room just like that, but this isn't the room. I have another room where I've got. I mean, what you have is nothing compared to what I have.
Oh, now I have a reason, everybody, to go and knock on Raul's door sometime this season to go nerd out with him. But we're talking about all things silver and black. Before we transition into some Wemby talk, shocker, but Still want to talk about them being hovering around 500.
Mhm.
I'm glad they showed some bite in that fourth quarter versus the Knicks. They cut that 30-point deficit down to about 15, 14 around there. They
Yeah.
coming back and everything, but you could just see this is a team still in a work in progress. I keep on telling Spurs fans this and the listeners and watchers of Los here that if you thought this team was out of the woods / rebuild city because they won the lottery, you had to think again because they're not out of the woods yet. This is still a team franchise in rebuild mode. Maybe it's not capital letters, neon lights, underscored. We're in rebuild. It's softened a bit. You get Wemby, that helps, but
Yeah.
I just see this is still a path, and them hovering around 300 for me is okay because that was kind of the trend of thought heading into this new season. You saw it, you heard it, you read it. If this team can stay around 500, that's good progress for them, and you do see progress so far. The development of Vassell, how much they miss Vassell when he's not on the court. The education of Wemby. He has that game versus Phoenix. But then he's one of the best clutch players. But then, he lays an egg like he did shooting from the field versus Knicks. And then everybody shot horribly versus Indiana. So, But the point is nobody should be surprised right now that they're hovering around. I mean, everybody should be kind of ecstatic that they're hovering around 500 because at least they're not getting blown out of the water, Raul. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, I think people should see it sort of the glass sort of half full rather than half empty. I mean, like I said, before last season, I told people that the Spurs are going to be fun but frustrating. I figured, I think I even posted, they're going to build 20-point leads, they're going to lose 20-point leads, they're going to lose, get trailed by 20 points and come back. That was just their nature. They're very competitive. I didn't think it was going to be as bad this year where they're going to do that. I thought it might be a little closer. But they're kind of doing the same thing again, where they're able to build big leads, but they can't hold them. They're falling behind, and then they're coming back. So it's still that same sort of youthful play, that inexperience. But again, if you're around 500, you're in contention for a playoff spot. I thought they could make the playoffs. I thought maybe a 7th, 8th spot. Go through the play-in. But I don't know that anybody thought that they were a championship team. If you did, you're about 2-3 years too early.
Yeah.
But this team obviously has got some of the best young players in the game. It's going to take a little bit to get them going. I was curious. I looked back at Tim Duncan's first year. They were 5, and at this point they were, I believe it was 5-2. They had a 4-game winning streak. But that's Tim Duncan with Robinson and Avery. People like that, so it's going to take a while. I mean, your best player on this team is a 19-year-old kid that's never played NBA before. He should still be in college, age-wise. So it's good. It's good that they're around 500. It's good that they're getting these experiences where they're kind of getting blown out. One thing that I noticed that I sort of enjoyed seeing, I know we're going to talk about Wemby in a little bit, but just his fight. I mean, he was mad. I mean, when quickly grabbed him by the arm, he threw his arm off, and then the other day when Dennis Schroeder tried to pick him up, he didn't take his arm, says, I don't need your help. So Wemby's got some fight in him.
Yeah. I can't wait for him to put on that size, where he will get pushed around.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up Wemby. Let's go ahead and talk about our second segment here, and that is Wembanyama. The idea here, everybody, is we're going to try to find one surprising thing so far that we've seen through 8 games of his NBA career. You are the guest, Raul, so take it away. What's one surprising thing? Is it that fight in him that you're mentioning right now?
I hadn't seen too much of him. Just saw highlights, but that fight is something that he has. That he reminds me of Steph Curry in terms of that competitiveness. With Kobe, you saw it in players like Kobe and players like that. But Steph, to me, even when he was younger, Steph would cut, because Steph was, obviously shorter, but kind of a similar build, kind of slight. But Steph never let anybody push him around, and people tried to push him or whatever. He'd fight back, and he'd get angry, and you could see he got mad about things. Wemby's showing that same kind of fight, so that competitiveness is big, and it's going to help him down the line. That's one thing that surprised me. And the other thing that surprised me is just his defense. Obviously, he's able to block shots and alter shots. But I love the fact that he's sort of like the Norman Dale Hoosiers coach in the movie. Norman Dale would love him because he's in that defensive stance. He's low. He's got his arms out. He stays in front of his defender. Is the player he's guarding. And he's very sound defensively. He's very fundamentally sound defensive wise. And you don't always see that with young players. It takes them a while to sort of know what to do defensively and put that effort in there. The fact that he has those defensive fundamentals, because if he didn't have those fundamentals, obviously he could just block somebody's shot or, with his quickness, come up to him. But he's doing everything just fundamentally right in order to set up those plays. And the other thing was that I noticed that I haven't really seen since Kawhi is he's got that long reach, but he never gets caught in the cookie jar, so to speak. He's never, trying to get the ball and getting a foul called on him. He's just very good at knowing when to sort of stick his hand in there, how to avoid fouls and how not to give players, extra shots, extra free throws. So his defensive fundamentals is, to me, I only saw highlights of his offense. His defense, to me, this is a kid that's going to be defensive player of the year multiple times.
Yeah, we don't have to tell the listeners and viewers of the show right now that they've been putting it all over the place on social media. The statistical stats, on when him altering shots and shooting percentages near him. It's just insane. So to your point, yeah, he is already at 19 years old being a defensive force in the NBA. And the scary thing about it, he's only going to get better. This clunker he had versus the Knicks and the clunker he had against the Indiana, those, will sort itself out. They'll, and shock everybody. Guess what? Even when he hits 5-6 years into the league, that's going to happen. He's going to have bad nights, so, that's just part of life in the NBA for an NBA player. So you like the trajectory defensively. He is just a monster. And Raul, you nailed it in the head. Just, I'm surprised too. The passing lanes, the length, the use of the length, for me, and I'll get to my point in a few minutes, is when we see him at the Frost, you and me, and we're watching him, and I love how he forces players to second guess. I don't know if you've seen that. They'll dribble, and then they'll stop, and then be okay. They'll back up, or they'll stop, and they'll start. Okay, I got to pass out of this. I'm looking for a cutter, or somebody. So he's really, really altering things for the Spurs on the defensive end. Offensively, it'll come. Hopefully, they'll have more Phoenix nights more often than not as the season moves on. For me, what's surprising me so far is his post-game demeanor. Whether it's a win or whether it's a loss, he seems to be very even keel. So let's just say, for example, they're coming off a big win in San Antonio, and they just club the defending champs, Denver. We'll use them for example. I bet you anything if that happens, he'll probably come back out and Raul, you've seen this kind of yeah, we did good. My teammates are involved. Yeah. That's just how he is. In a loss, the exact same way. Well, we got to look at the film. We have to look, and I like that. He's just very even keeled. Maybe it's still early in his NBA career, and maybe he doesn't want to ruffle feathers in front of you and me, and in front of the media. But that's what has really surprised me the most. The only quirk in my take, though, is that when I speak to the French media that sits with us post game, Raul, they tell me whenever he's speaking to them in French. I don't know if they told you this too, in the French, in his native tongue, that he's a lot more emotional with them. So I don't know, maybe he's putting a mask up for the American reporters, and then for the French reporter, he's more at ease. But nevertheless, I like how unflappable he is. Wins and losses, he's taking it even keel. What are your thoughts about that?
No, I was going to say, when you say that, doesn't he kind of remind you of Duncan in that way? Tim, after a win, after a loss, it's always like, okay, is that it? Okay, It wouldn't. Tim was always very even keel. He answered your questions. Always make sure to point out the teammate that did well, but he'd always say, well, next game, let's go. And the other thing about Wemby that reminds me also about Duncan is Wemby already has all the Spurs sayings down, pound the rock, team ball, next game. He's definitely he is the perfect Spurs player.
Yeah, again, everybody, he's only going to get better. So to sum up, hovering around 500 should be a good thing. That's what Spurs fans expected. This is basically, especially coming off a tank season. And then 2, there's a lot more. In my opinion, I think there's going to be a lot more surprises ahead for everybody with Wemby, and he develops. You're going to see different facets of his game, his personality, his leadership. Keep in mind, everybody, he's a teenager. Raul, sometimes you and I are sitting together in that conference room. You have to repeat in my head, he's 19 years old. He's 19 years old. And because he's a teenager, so it's not. Look. I get the comparisons to Duncan and Robinson because they were the number 1 pick. I get all that, highly touted and heralded, but man, different men, basically, just different men, different scenarios, different team situations.
Yeah, because Tim, spent 4 years in college before he came to the Spurs, and then David had the 4 years in Navy and then a 2-year naval commitment before he came. So, they all definitely have good head on their shoulders. But as far as just sort of being used to that competitive play, sort of being more of more kind of an adult and kind of seeing things differently. Like he's still, like you're saying, he's still a teenager. I mean, he's 19 years old. I mean, I think of what I was at 19 years old and where I'm at now. I mean, it's at 19, you're still trying to figure everything out. So, I can't imagine being 19 years old and being in the spotlight that he is. But yet he's handling it so well. He's so gracious with everyone. He's friendly with everyone. He's nice to everybody. He's taking it all in. He's very quick to point out, hey, this isn't about me. This is about us. So I mean, I'm amazed and impressed by his demeanor.
You brought up, you thinking back when you were 19 and what you were doing. When I was 19, I was collecting comics and watching cartoons. Things haven't changed.
I was going to say,
still have not changed at all. He is Raul Dominguez of AP Sports. Make sure to follow him on X. You see it at the bottom of the screen. ABRJS Dad. Those are his kids' initials. Dad. Good follow. Great guy. Very interactive on social media. He will chat with you, and he's really good about helping the local community here in San Antonio. Okay, I can't let you go because you opened up a can of nerd worms here. What's in that special room you got?
Oh, I've got everything. I've got a lot of Marvel stuff. I'm a huge Marvel guy. I got a lot of Stan Lee stuff. I've got Wolverine, Deadpool. I've got other big thing for me is Star Wars. I got a lot of, stuff from the original. I got stuff from the Mandalorian. I guess the other big thing I got is the Nightmare Before Christmas stuff. So it's just packed in there with stuff, and I sort of been building stuff. So whenever I my wife doesn't want to hear it, but whenever I pass away, I want my grandkids to be able to pick things out that they want. So hopefully they're a nerd like me, but a cooler nerd.
Again, he is Raul Dominguez. Make sure to follow him on X at ABRJS Dad. Do it right now. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. We're available everywhere you find your favorite podcasts, including YouTube, the Ken's 5 Plus app, Spotify, iTunes. The list goes on and on. We'll be back tomorrow, likely to look ahead at that first Spurs tournament play-in game. That court's going to be wild, Raul. You know it's coming. That court's going to be wild. So stick right here on Locked On Spurs. Likely more Wemby talk. Nobody should be surprised. So for Raul Dominguez, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.